Welcome to another edition of On the Tourism Trail. I am your host, Pamela Martin. And today I have with me a very special guest. He's Nevisian, and he's probably one of the most creatively talented people that I've ever met. And he is Mr. Vaughn Anslyn. Welcome, Vaughn.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you today.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so you're in Nevis. You were born in Nevis.
Mm-hmm.
You are a creative in the full sense of the word, I would say, because you draw, you paint, you take photographs, you do drone, you're a fashion designer, you're a decor designer. I mean, you really, really cover the whole gamut, I think, in terms of creativity.
Yeah.
So, when did you first discover, or who discovered your creativity? I mean, for most of us who go to school, we start to draw, and we draw stick men and women, the very, very basics. How did your creativity come about? Like, who discovered you, that you were such a creative genius?
Well, I think as a youth, I was always drawing something, everything. In school, I would draw the teacher rather than listen to the subject. And I just basically grew from there. The more I did, the better I became. And it's just, I always tell you, I never became an artist. I was born an artist.
Right.
And I just developed what I know, because it boggles my mind all the time, the things that I do. I mean, I could see something and do it right the first time without any practice or even any kind of preempt notion of it. I just know how. And I think that's where my creativity kind of grew from. And it's not only that, but I also think that I discovered my gift. A lot of us, I think, we go through life knowing what we want to do versus what we're pushed to do. And I think a lot of people tend to deviate more along the lines of, I'm going to be this or I'm going to be that because my mom and dad wants me to be. But then in their heart, they want to be something creative, like a dancer. But they're always pushed away from that because that should be a hobby,
right? And not your real career.
And even what I do, at first it was a very scary process because this is not a profession, so to speak, in this federation. Yet, I managed to push through it.
Okay, so when you said you have a certain amount of drive because you recognized yourself. Mm-hmm. So when your parents recognized that you were so gifted in terms of your arts, what was their response like? Were they encouraging?
Well, yes. My mom, she, at an early age, she realized that I was spending a lot of time painting and drawing, and I was being up late at night. And back then, I was in the house with my sisters. And she actually built a shed onto the back of the house, someplace that I can go and paint. And, I'll be out there all night. She wouldn't even disturb me. My mom understood what and how I worked. So she would come out and put down some food on the side. It'd be like 2:00 in the morning. And she wouldn't say anything. She just put it there and she goes back inside because I'm in my zone, and that's because I was constantly trying to perfect myself.
Even at that young age?
At that young age. I mean, I was driven, very driven. I must admit it. I look back at it now and I was like, wow, I was set on a path that nothing ever pulled me away from.
So do you come from a creative background, or was you just an anomaly?
Well, I think my dad, he probably did a little bit of art back in the day. He showed me some of his work. And, it's funny because the day I realized I was that good was when once my dad saw me with a picture and he said, I thought I told you not to trace. And I said, but Dad, I drew that. And he's like, huh? So he picks up the drawing and he puts it next to the picture that I was drawing. And of course mine was a little bit larger and different. He's like, and he couldn't believe. And that was like your aha moment, He's like, yeah, okay. But I think the creativity, it's I don't know. I was born with it.
You're fortunate because, like you say, a lot of people have that desire to do something that a little bit, different or out of the norm, and a lot of the time they get pushed in a different direction,
right.
Or they just go into a different direction, or just don't necessarily have the confidence. So for you to have that level of confidence and determination to keep going was pretty amazing.
Yes.
So you've painted murals in Nevis and in St. Kitts. You do work actually internationally. You do work all over. So tell us, how did you start? What did you start with? Painting, drawing, and then how did you progress?
I started drawing basically cartoon figures. I mean, you know, stuff from comics like Superman, Spider-Man, that kind of stuff. Okay, so but then as I progressed, I never tried to channel myself to one thing. I wasn't gonna just be good at drawing and then stick to that, or painting and stick to that.
Okay.
I wanted to do it all because I think art encompassed every part of my life, and whether it be drawing, painting, sculpture, carpentry, photography, you know, I always included art in everything that I did, and it's very amazing to look back at my progression.
Right.
And I look back at even paintings and drawings that I had from an early age, and I was like, wow, this is truly something. I could always see my development, but I started then, and then as I looked at different avenues of like murals, for example, it's a different mindset when you're painting something this size on a paper,
right,
then you're painting something that size.
Right.
On a,
How do you scale it mentally?
Well,
then?
that's the thing, see, because at first you have to almost train yourself. So when you get away from the drawing aspect of it, when I first start the mural, it's always a weird scenario because I will stop and go back way over there and look at it and then come back close to see the measurement of a stroke here versus the measurement of a stroke here. Both the same, but in a different ratio. And it takes a little bit of while just to get into that mood. And then but once you do that, then you have a painting, a picture in front of you, this is this. And but murals,
so it's all internalized. There's no measuring or anything of that.
No, it's kind of hard. You can't really measure. I mean, even when you outline something, you're gonna paint over the outline anyway. It's just a guide that you put there, so your mental points is okay. This is where that is, the eyes, nose, mouth, and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, you can't draw shading. You know. So how do you do that? So your outline is there, and then you basically just progress from there.
Okay, so when you were about to leave school, what was the plan?
Well, in school, I did subjects like woodworking and human biology and stuff like that. You know, I've always known in my head where my path in life was going to go. But from there, at the age 18, I went to St. Croix, and I immediately went to work for Hess Oil Refinery. And when they asked me what qualifications, I'm a painter, and they wanted to first start me off with just painting, I said, no, I'm an artistic painter. So then I was in charge of painting those big Hess oil on the side of the tanks. And then back then, you know, we didn't have like vinyl cutters, so I was there with my brush and lettering oil crude with an arrow going that way or a gas pipe that way. Anyway, but the thing about that is I just hated the smell of the place, and I figured I'm gonna get sick or something. So I did that for about a year. But then while I was working there, it took me to a path of, I saw an ad for a sign painting school in Florida. So I went and said, okay, let me enlist in that. So I did that thing, and sure enough, I get to Florida, the school doesn't exist. So I'm in Florida, not knowing anybody, totally broke.
Wow.
Yeah, so slept in a car for about 2 weeks on the road, homeless. But I didn't call home. You know why? Because I told myself, I'm gonna experience this. It's like you almost like you wanna make sure your path in life is
really
your
in a
own.
completely strange place.
And I've always been like that.
Right.
I've always been like that. I'm the kind of guy that will walk into a dark room and not know where the light switch is, but figure it out regardless. And so, yeah, I slept in a car for 2 weeks, and I used to go to McDonald's and stuff like that, take showers here and there, until I met up with an actual sign painter. And I said, I'd like to come work for you, blah, blah, blah. And he said, sure, no problem. So that's how that sign painting part of my life started.
Okay.
I got into sign painting through him. And then I met up with another guy. He was from St. Croix, and he was a caretaker of our house, and he also was a manager of a Subway. So then I started working at Subway with him, and I stayed in the house with him. So he was just, But I look at it like it couldn't happen if it was scripted.
Right.
At how things fell into place.
Isn't it amazing?
Yes, I always believe in the power of intention. That what you think about, you bring about, and your life is preordained. And sometimes the smooth road is not always a road to take. You have to take that rough road because that's the right path.
Wow.
It may not be the easiest, but it definitely will take you to another level in life. Because if you wake up in the morning and think you're going to get hit by a car, you would never leave the house.
Right.
But the possibility always there.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
But
so
you just take the risk and
you
go
take
ahead.
the risk and you go. And that's the thing. A lot of people like to play it safe.
Right.
I never play it safe.
You never play it safe.
You never play
You
it
never
safe.
play it safe.
The one guy that you will find that is gonna be something dangerous is Vaughn, for sure.
Okay. Okay, so how long were you in Florida for?
I was in Florida for a year. And then I came home, and I think my sisters had gotten citizenship or something to move. I think my mom had filed for everybody, so we went to New York. So we went there for like another 2 years, and while I was there, I did a couple of fashion shows, got into modeling and that kind of stuff. I got a job at McDonald's, and because I had my own business here, they hired me as a manager, so I was managing McDonald's there. And then when the Four Seasons opened, I heard about that, so I was like, well, let me go home and see if they're hiring. So, I walk into Four Seasons, suit and tie, like I own the place. But they hired me as a manager. I've never worked as a line employee.
What role at that point?
Back then it was the banquets head houseman. It was a management position. It was in charge of setups and stuff.
Okay.
Which is right along my alley. So I brought a creative side to the setups. And then I created themes for the banquet functions. So whereas at first I was hired for one thing, after a year and a half, they said, well, you can do lighting, you can do decor, you can do setups. They created a position for me, which is totally cool. Yeah, and to this day, that position never exists. Because after I left, that position was done.
So how long were you at Four Seasons for?
Wow, 17 years.
Really?
17 years.
And so you were in that similar role for 17 years?
Yes, but still, even though I was working at the Four Seasons, I still did my sign painting and my work outside of the Four Seasons. So, yeah.
And then what led you to leave or depart the Four Seasons? What was the...
Because I never conformed to rules and, the 9 to 5. I'm the kind of guy I don't mind you telling me what to do, don't tell me how to do it, that kind of thing. And they will always say, oh, Vaughn, you're the guy with the plan in his head. I can never explain to you what I'm going to do because I don't even know, but it's just going to happen.
As you do it, it becomes to unfold.
Exactly, and that's the creative process is a hard thing to put into context. There's no channel of creativity. Creativity is open, and so when you try to confine a creative person, it never works.
So, what if somebody commissions a piece from you, whether it's a piece of art or something of that nature? How do you approach that?
Okay, I will tell you this. There's situations where someone comes to me and said, I want a painting on my wall. And so I said, okay, well, I need to go to the house to see it. But when I get there, it's that space, but then I get a feel for the person. So what do you like? And tell me about yourself. And they don't see the relation to it, but I want to know them. What do you like? Do you like nature, flowers, that kind of stuff? So I pick up on that. Then I look around the room and I see the colors of the furniture and what thing. And then so I paint something that resembles everything and every aspect of that. So you're given a path, but you're not told. You're given a destination. The path is yours to create.
Okay. So would anybody come to you and say, okay, I would like you to paint X, Y, or Z, like very specifically?
Well, I experience that when I do portraits.
Right.
Portraits is a face. You can't deviate from that. So that in itself, I tell you one thing about me and portraits. It took me 5 years before I showed anyone my first portrait. I am that much of a perfectionist because it had to not look like the person, but feel like the person. And that is something, the hardest thing to convey
Yes.
is a feeling through art. And when you see, you hand a portrait to somebody and a tear comes to their eye, you've done your job.
Right. I remember when you drew Thunder
Yes.
at the Cultural Complex.
Yes.
Right there, on stage, in front of everybody, you drew a picture of Thunder, who is a local Nevision person.
Right.
And I was absolutely amazed.
Well,
Because not you, like you said, you didn't just draw the person, you captured the very essence of the person. You captured the mood, I would say, even,
Right.
at the person, that you see when you see somebody, they approach you. Just exactly as I see this gentleman or saw this gentleman was what you captured, and I was amazed.
yeah,
You
that
did
was
That was in like what, 15 minutes?
Well, it was actually 7. That was
7.
That was the length of time we had for our talent. But it's a funny story about that. Okay, so it was for the Mr. Cool pageant show, and that was my performing talent. The thing about that is I'm always into empowering people, and if you remember what I said on that show, at the end of it, I said, "You all came here to see who wins Mr. Cool. This is Mr. Cool." And I showed them this guy. And then as I drew him, he would hear the sound of the flute, and he was backstage.
Yes.
So I basically had nothing to work with, but I knew what I was doing. And so when he came out and he stood next to the painting and he had on the same cap, and everything, it was perfect. And, yeah, but I was very much into recognizing people for their talents, and that was his talent, and that was and it's the thing about it is, and I always say this, art has such a powerful voice, because before there was language, there was art. Before people could even speak, they could draw. And so to this day, instead of hearing language, you look at cave drawings, because that's the only way people could convey their message. And that was, unfortunately, after a year after I did that, the young gentleman, he died. And they would replay that over and over on TV.
I remember seeing it
because
sometimes.
then he was not, "Oh, you don't know Thunder?" No. You know the guy that Vaughn painted on stage? That's him. And so that link was how people got to know who he was. So then that was my purpose. That was my job, to get that across. And it didn't matter. The show didn't matter. That was the message throughout that.
Right. So out of all the various creative outlets that you have, you tell us all the things that you do creatively.
Oh, wow.
And you draw. Just
Wow,
because we need to hear all of this.
Well, there's the drawings, there's the paintings, there's the murals and stuff, but there's also personal training. I do that. I do fashion design. I do interior design, decor, not just decor as in like decorate or function, but event planning, the decor, that kind of stuff. I personalize items for people. Like the other day, I did like 47 rum bottles with art on them for a group, so they have keepsakes.
So
to
you individually
paint each bottle by hand with each paint. Yes, so there was that. Yeah, so it's
and then you have
the context of things.
Your designs,
Be
which
aware,
you're wearing
yes.
today.
Yes, of course.
So you actually call it what? What do you call it?
Wearable art.
Wearable art.
Yes.
So Vaughn actually is also a fashion designer and has designed the outfit he's wearing today. And designs you actually hand paint.
Well, it's actually okay. So I'll tell you how this started. The problem with me is when I have clothes on, like I'm dressed, I always have an idea and I run to my canvas and I start painting, forgetting about what I'm wearing. And somewhere in the interim, something gets spilled on me. So that's what happened with this one. So rather than like, oh man, I've got paint on my clothes, I just took the brush and painted it up even more. And then I looked at it, I was like, okay, this will work. Yeah. So then I went down to town with it, and this guy comes up and he's like, "Can I buy that shirt from you?" Wow. I was like, "Buy it." So there's the shirt with just mess and paint all over it. He's like, that's an idea. So then there was this guy in St. Kitts, Jason Amory. He was holding a fashion show, and he would see these clothing that I'm wearing. He's like, Vaughn, you think you can put together something for males and females and create a line and bring it to the show? So I was like, oh, okay. So I did. And wow, people bought the clothes. Since then it's been Grenada, Barbados, Trinidad, Fashion Week, all over the Caribbean, Anguilla, you name it. I've been there with these clothes. And I completely am blown away by it because, like, you know,
I think anything you touch is art.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Anything I've done, I've always incorporated art in some way, shape, or form in it, and it's, you know, it's something like the Midas touch, man. It's very interesting.
So, what is there anything or anything or anywhere that you would like to go and paint something? I mean, would you like to paint the Taj Mahal or, you know, the Leaning Tower of Pisa or anything? Is there anywhere that you say, you know, I'd really love to go here and paint this, or be in a particular place and just paint?
I like to travel and paint. I've done murals, you know, in St. Martin, in Anguilla, in St. Kitts, a lot of them, in Miami, Dubai. But yeah, I like to travel and paint. I was flown to Boston to paint something for a guy, and I used to from Nevis, and I went up and did some stuff in his house and stuff outside. But it always warms my heart to do that because I like to see myself as immortal. When you do stuff like that, even long after you're gone, it's there. And you know, I would sell my art, and you know, one guy will take a picture of it. He has a painting, and in back of him is the pyramids. And he's like, look at where I'm at, and this is my house, and your name is on my wall in Egypt, or your name is in my wall in Russia.
Your pieces are
global. Exactly. So that kind of thing. I don't mind when people come to me and say, you know, I really like your piece, but it's so expensive. It's like, how much do you want to pay me? Because it's out there. And it's very interesting when it comes to art because there's a term called starving artists. I'll tell you about that. The reason why that term exists is because artists, real, true artists, do not commercialize their work.
Right.
I mean, there are artists like Van Gogh, for example. He never sold a painting. Now his paintings are worth millions of dollars. But he did his art for himself because art is such a personal thing. It's very hard for anyone with an artistic inclination to sell it because you're selling a piece of yourself, and a lot of people don't understand what that means to the artist itself. Yeah, you know, you create something that you want to create, that this is what you're feeling, and I always say art is not something that I do, it's something that I feel because I'm putting a part of myself on canvas. So how dare you tell me this is worth this, or it's not worth that. Exactly. Right. So yeah, it's truly something. So when you see that term and then people type, like, you're like, well, how much is this? And I said, well, how much do you want to pay me for that? Because I know they're leaving Nevis with something that I created, and it's going to be in their house, on their wall. The Lord Mayor of Leeds has a painting in her office of a pelican that I painted, that Vance Amory hand gave her and said, this is a gift from Nevis. Right. It's stuff like that. You know,
so, and you, of course, you know, you're walking around and you know, you walk around thinking, my pieces are all over the world.
All over the world.
That's pretty amazing.
Exactly. So the commercial and the money part of it, that's secondary. That's just a bonus. The fact that it's out there, and it's like you said, where would I like to paint next? Is more like, where would I like my paintings to go next?
Right. Wow. You know, okay.
That's
an amazing way to look at it.
Because my paintings travel. Yeah. I may not be there in person, but it's there, and that's what I want.
Okay. What is your favorite outlet of art to do? What is your favorite thing to do? Whether it's to draw, to paint, to do murals, to do people portraits. What do you get the most enjoyment from doing?
There are differences. With portraits, it's a personal thing because I will get a job to paint a relative, a kid, or some family member, or even the same person that gives me the portrait, and it always invokes an emotional response when I hand them this painting. Because I did one recently for El Camino Willett for his 50th anniversary, and he came to me personally and said, Vaughn, out of all the gifts that I received, this is the one I treasure the most because I created it.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's not something you can run into a store and buy.
Right. It's an absolute original.
It's original.
Even if you did it,
even if I did
it would be different.
It would still be original. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So when it comes to emotional connections, that's the portraits. But when it comes to getting a message across, then that's a mural.
Right.
Because I will give you a nice story. During COVID, when everyone was told to stay home on lockdown, and I never did that. No. I was up and I was out painting because I saw that as the perfect experience, perfect time to be creative with total silence, no interruption. So I was driving along the road and the police will have their blockade. It's like, Vaughn, where you going? I'm going over there under that bridge to paint. Okay, go ahead. Because I'm not around anybody, bother anybody. And so I created this piece, and it's to this day over under a bridge close to Mansa's thing. And it's a picture of a face that's through a crack in the wall. And what it says is, we're caught between a rock and a hard place, and we're on the inside looking out. Wow. And that space is always so wide. And it was inspired by what was going on at the time. And so those kind of messages, I put out there when it comes to murals. It's a different audience. It's every walk of life passing by, that kind of thing. And even the Nevis Nice sign, something like that. You create it with the idea that it's going to be seen by multiple people, multiple individuals. So therefore, you have to create something that's almost universal. Yeah. It speaks to everyone, but at the same time, you take from it what you feel. Yeah. So those the demographics of, and even abstract art, for example, is another thing, because then not everyone appreciates abstract art. So you have to bring it across in such a way that it speaks to you in one way. So I don't go total abstract, but I do realism with an abstract twist to it. So I will distort the face with different colors that are not real, but you can tell it's that person. That kind of thing. So,
you're obviously incredibly talented, incredibly gifted, but you have chosen to stay, live, work in Nevis. Really, you could have been anywhere in the world.
I know.
It's, well known, making millions upon millions.
I've been told that many times.
But you've chosen to stay right here on our 36 square mile island paradise. Why is that?
I will tell you a little story. I had an exhibition one time at the Cotton Ginnery Mall, and this guy came up to me and he saw my work and he said, Mr. Anslyn, how can you create stuff like that in a society that does not support it? Because then, nobody supports you as an artist. Right. I said, because I make a difference. He said, what do you mean? He says, well, think about it. Compare this work to anyone else's work. Would you believe that I came from Nevis? He said, I never looked at it like that. I said, exactly. Because I did not paint for here. This was not my audience. My audience was international. And I've always marketed myself outside of here because I don't confine myself to 36 square miles. I was born in Nevis, but I'm not from here. My mind is worldwide, and that's how I see life. Wow. So then therefore, if you confine yourself, you will always be confined. Right. You'll always be stuck on the 36 square miles. And it took me to be recognized internationally, to see people, that person in the magazine is Vaughn, and that's Vaughn's picture. To then be recognized here because then there was like, wow, you're
So it's
worth
almost
it.
like in the reverse.
Yes, exactly. Because a king is never a king; he's his own castle. He's just dad. It's the same thing. It's, you know, you're to hear, oh, that's just Vaughn. I went to school with him. Yeah, that's the guy. But all of a sudden now you're the artist, and then that's another thing. I didn't want to be my father's kid. I didn't want to be Brother Anslyn's son. I want to be recognized as my own self. You know, people grow up in their parents' shadows and they like it.
Right.
I never wanted that.
Right.
I wanted to be myself.
Right. So, what else is on the horizon? Is there anything else? Is there any form of art that you would like to tackle, techniques that you have not already tackled, or any, you know? There are probably.
I have two quotations that I constantly say. One of them is, I never finish a painting. I just stop working on it. Because you can always keep going.
Right.
There's always
and then you have to have that.
Yes,
okay,
exactly. There's no stopping. So my life, I see that just like that, as an exponential curve.
Okay.
If I believe to myself that I'm this good, then I won't grow any further, because I'll believe that I'm good already. So, to answer your question, I just want to be better than I was yesterday.
Right. So
and
it's just
that's the thing.
Constant,
I will produce a good piece of work today, and I look at it today, and tomorrow I was like, I could do better, even though someone thinks it's the best thing I've ever done. And that's how I live. I constantly evolve myself, and I'm better than myself, and I reinvent myself. And when someone catches up with me here, I'm already there. Because people tend to look at other people for inspiration. Look inward. Look inward for inspiration.
So you're your own competition.
Yes, and I compete against myself
yourself.
constantly.
Right.
And then you soon realize that the things that you thought were competition are way behind.
Right.
Because obstacles and competition, they're what you see when you take your eyes off your own goals.
True.
If you don't look at them, they won't exist.
Very true. Very true.
So
where do you show? Where do you show your pieces, your art pieces? Tell us some of the places where you actually display your pieces.
well, outside of Instagram and Facebook, that when I paint a piece, I show it there. There's the Charlestown Gallery that has a couple of pieces there. There's the Olive Tree that's over there.
Nelson Spring.
Yes, at Nelson Spring. I have a lot of pieces there, and I constantly refresh paintings. If ones get sold, I put another one in. And also in Christoph Harbor in St. Kitts, where Dale's gallery, she constantly asks me for more pieces. I get a lot of requests from villa owners, yacht owners. They love turtles. I think I've probably painted 100 turtles already, and they always want more. Abstract, real, they don't care. I want a turtle. So, but I advertise my work all over. All over.
That's excellent. So, if someone wants to get in contact with you, or to have a piece for themselves, or to go and be able to purchase, or just to maybe speak to you about something that they're looking to have created by you, how can people get in contact with you?
Well, outside of Facebook, as Vaughn Anslyn, or Instagram, same thing, Vaughn Anslyn. My number is 665-8727.
So 869. 665
8727.
8727. And what's your Instagram?
Vaughn Anslyn.
Vaughn Anslyn?
Yes.
Okay.
Very simple.
Very simple. Excellent. Thank you, Vaughn, for
You're
coming
most
on
welcome.
to the Tourism Trail today.
Sure.
Continue to create. It's amazing, and it's obviously you've contributed greatly to the tourism industry with all the wonderful things you've done at the Hotel at Four Seasons, and the things you people take pieces of Nevis all over the world when they leave here, which is a beautiful testament to the island and to your beautiful gift. So thank you.
Well, I feel that warmth every time I see someone taking a picture by the Nevis Nice sign. That's become the stopping place. And I was like,
excellent.
Wow, it's a nice feeling. It really is. But thank you very much for this opportunity.
You're most welcome. It's been great to have you.
Great.
Okay. So that's it, folks. Thank you for tuning in to On the Tourism Trail this week. We'll see you again next week. Bye for now.
No nowhere but my island. Right here, right here, right here. We live the Caribbean. Nowhere, nowhere, nowhere but my island. Right here, right here, right here. We live the Caribbean.
This program is sponsored by the Bank of Nevis Limited. Thank you, the Bank of Nevis.
Banking is now an essential part of our life. That's why the Bank of Nevis Limited is making life easier for all of our customers. As a bond customer, waiting in line is a thing of the past. Deposit checks or cash at any one of our Charlestown ATMs today. Short on funds? No problem. It's easy making withdrawals using your Bond Visa debit card. Experience how much easier life can be with just one swipe of your debit card. Whether it's online or in store, we've got you covered. Easy and delicious. Now that's a great combo. We fully understand that sometimes life can get hectic. Log on to Bond's online banking platform and with just a click, you can save the day by easily transferring funds from your savings to your checking account. Just like that. And your funds are transferred in real time. Perfect. With a single swipe of your debit card or a few clicks for online banking, the Bank of Nevis Limited will continue to improve the quality of your life so you can continue to live your best life. The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.